Okay, so at this point you would see that I have the supplies that I'm going to need for painting, my color wheel set up at the table. I have the paints out from the bucket on a long strip of paper towel down the center of the table so that everybody can share. I have my water bucket out, newspaper underneath the painting, and my palettes on top of the newspaper in a brush, as well as one small piece of paper towel for myself to wipe off my brush in between washing out that brush. Okay, so my surface is set up. Now I'm ready to start filling in my color wheel. The first thing I'm going to ask that you make sure to include on your color wheel is your name and hour at the top. And then it doesn't matter where you start in on your color wheel as long as you begin with your primaries first. For demonstration purposes, I will only show you one set of colors, which means I'll show you a primary, a secondary, and then the two intermediates that go along with that primary and secondary. And so I will be working from the reds, the red, orange, orange, and yellow orange section. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is just take my primary color, dip my brush in, and paint right on that painting spot. And I do not need to go from my primary color to my palette and then take the paint from my palette to go to my painting. It's just an extra step. So we'll talk about brush technique when you're painting in a small space such as this. Proper brush technique is important to practice. That means I'm using a swipe motion with my brush, so just swiping the color across the paper gently with my brush, which is probably the more appropriate method to use for small space. If I was using a larger space, then I would most likely go back and forth with my brush, back and forth motion, but again, I'm using a small space, so I'm going to use a swipe motion. When I'm getting to spots that are along an edge or a line, a lot of times for a line, I will just put my brush, the tip of my brush close to the end of the line and then push up towards the line so that I can get a clean edge. Okay, so I've got my one primary done. Now I'm going to work on the secondary, which is the orange. So I'm going to take just a dip of the red, put a little bit into the palette, then I'm going to be washing out my brush from my water bucket. I'm going to dry that brush as well, and I'm just going to pinch the end of the brush to make sure that there's no more red on that brush. I'm not going to pinch and pull the brush because I don't want to pull out the hairs on the brush. I want those to stay intact, so I'm just going to pinch the tip of the brush gently just to dry it off. I don't want any excess water in there. So red plus yellow is going to be what I need to make an orange. So I'm going to take my yellow and I'm going to try to guess that I'm using the same amount, because equal portions of red and yellow is going to make my orange, my secondary orange. And so again, I'm just guessing, and if I guess wrong, then I just have to go back in and add more of either the red or the yellow. And so I've got a color mixed up here that is starting to look like an orange. Yep, this looks like a pretty good orange. So I'm going to be using that orange and painting that into this space here. And of course you will be painting it into the whole space, paying attention to proper brush technique, swipe motion, and along your edges. But I'm going to move along quicker because of demonstration purposes. So I'm going to take my orange, and now I'm going to make the intermediate color that is on the side of the orange, and there's two of them. There's a yellow orange and a red orange, and so I'm going to work from the lighter one first, which is the yellow orange, and then I'll turn it to a darker one. So it's easier to do the lighter one first. So all I'm going to do is take a bunch of yellow, a lot of it so that I can make sure I'm turning that into a yellow-orange without any question. This definitely should look lighter than my orange. And I make sure I get it all mixed in, and don't overdo it on the mixing, just mix it until it gets to the right color consistency and it's all mixed together. Then stop, because otherwise the more and more you stir, the more you spread out your paint and it dries. So I've got it mixed up. It's a good yellow orange. It's going to definitely show up different than my regular orange. If I put it down on the paper and my yellow orange looks darker than my orange, then I know something's wrong. So I've got the yellow orange, which is showing up much lighter than my regular orange. Then again, I'm going to wash my brush off again. Anytime you need to switch water, you're free to go ahead and do that. I'm going to pinch the end of the brush, make sure that it's dry. And then this time, since I'm making a red orange, and I'm trying to make a red orange out of a yellow orange, I have to take double the amount of red to make sure that I get a red orange instead of a regular orange. So I need to turn it darker than the regular orange. And red orange is pretty dark. In comparison to your red, it should just be lighter, a little bit lighter than your regular red. Okay, so when I put this color down, I know on the screen it'll be a little bit trickier to see, and I got a little bit messy there. I had too much paint on there. So what I should see is a red, then a color that's a tad bit lighter than my red, which is my red orange. Then I should see my orange, which is kind of my middle color. And then I should see a lighter color, which is my yellow orange. So at the end, I should have a medium color in the middle. That's my secondary. Then I should have a lighter one of the intermediates that's lighter, and then I should have a darker one, which is my red orange. If they don't look, different, if they're starting to look the same, or my red orange looks lighter than my orange, then I know something's wrong. Okay, I should have a middle tone and then a light and a dark. So a light, middle, dark. Okay. For the center, when it comes to tinting, toning, and shading, I can choose any color I want for tinting, toning, and shading, but I have to do them one at a time. So since I already have a red-orange mixed in there, I'm just going to take the red orange that I have swiped right there, and I'm going to do a tint of that red orange. And it doesn't matter how much white I take, because any amount of white is going to make it into a tinted red orange. And I'm going to get like this coral color, which on the screen looks a little bit pinky. Okay, so that's going to go into this section here, on that side and on that side, covering up the complete word. And of course you'll fill in the whole space. Okay, now I can actually use that same tinted color and create a tone out of that tinted color, because a tone is mixing gray to a color. So white and black make gray. Since there's white in that red orange already, I'm just going to take a dot, a very small dot of black, and turn it into a tone of red orange. So you can see it just dulled the color, grayed it out just a little bit, and the tone's going to go in this section over here. And now, in order to mix up a shade, I cannot add anything to that because it's already got white and black in it together. So instead, I saved this red orange over here for my shade. And I just want to make sure, that's kind of a lot of paint in there, so I'm going to make sure it's really well mixed before adding it onto my painting. and that's going to go in the shade section down here. So I just did all of them with the red orange since I had enough red orange to do the 3 different ones, the tint, the tone, the shade. I do not care which color you choose to make a tint of, which one you choose to make a tone out of, and which one you choose to make a shade out of, okay? Doesn't matter. So very little spaces used on my paint palette, and I've already got 7 colors in on my color wheel. Of course, you would paint in all the white spaces, okay? And that's it.